Alright YouTube, I'm finally getting a chance to make another video. This time around, we're going to do the VAS 3.5 suspension drop. All the components, plus the traction bars. The reason why I want to do this video is because I was looking online and I couldn't find anybody actually doing true in detail videos of how to install this stuff. These directions, I've already read over them and everything. They're excellent directions, but I just wanted to make a little video to go with it, and maybe it can help somebody else out that's wanting to do the same. So let's get started. So as I was reading these directions, I noticed first right out of the box you got to remove these little bump stops. So that's what we're going to do first. Get that right there.
Looking at
Right here, it was showing you need a deep socket, 13 millimeter.
okay.
Just take that bolt out. Pretty easy stuff. Alright, I got the rear end set up underneath some jack stands, just enough to where the tires are off the ground. Next thing we need to do, we need to take the brake line bracket off. Need a 10 millimeter socket to do so. Alright, that's free and clear. Now we just need to do the other side. Alright, so now we got to take these nuts off of here.
Yeah.
And what I went ahead and did, I put a jack stand right here to support this. It doesn't say to do that anywhere online that I've read, but I do it anyway just in case this thing flips down just a little bit. I'm using a 13/16 to take these factory ones off. Alright, then take these U-bolt pieces off.
Yeah.
Get it on this side. Here we go. You just hold it. Next up, I'm going to take these shocks off. You've got a 15 millimeter socket and an 18 millimeter wrench. Alright. Alright, that's the one on the bottom. Now we can do the one on the top. Yep, easy enough. There you go. Alright, now I'm going to loosen the top one. There we go. Alright, now that we got the shock and the U-bolt assembly taken off, we're going to do this other side just the same.
It's got that keeper on it that'll keep it from turning, I think. That's what I'm telling you.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, Get it around. There you go now. Beautiful.
Next up, I'm going to take this bolt out on the front driver's side. It takes a 15/16 on the back and then an 1 1/16 on the front. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna knock the nut out far enough right here where I can tap it in and cut the bolt head off this other side.
Done. So it has to be done manually.
There we go.
Get right there and then tap it through. Oh yeah.
All right, after knocking that through, I got just enough gap on this side, and I'll be able to cut it right here, cut the head off.
Break that blade there.
Okay, after cutting on this for probably about 15 minutes with a Sawzall, I'm finally there where you can get that to come off. And it's done. On a side note, when you go to cut that bolt, like this one right here says bimetal. I spent probably 15 minutes with that blade and I didn't even make a 1/16 of an inch. Here's one that says metal on it. It says bimetal as well, but anyways, this is the one that I used right there. A DeWalt blade. Took about 3 minutes to finish the rest of the bolt. I highly recommend doing that. Okay, just to show where we're kind of at. On these shackles right here, in order to get these leaf springs out, I had to loosen up on this bolt right here. That way this would pivot easier. And in order to get that bolt out on the front side, I went ahead and dropped the exhaust. That way it was out of the way. Made it a whole lot easier to get this whole assembly out of there. We got one leaf spring out. Now, we're just simply going to do the other one we're going to loosen up on this shackle bolt right here and loosen up on the leaf spring bolt. Whenever I knock that pin out up there, whenever I knock that bolt out up there that I cut the head off of, this will all swivel and then I'll be able to take the leaf spring out. We got this piece right here. Get it good enough where you can take this off. And then just wiggle your leaf spring.
Okay, I can't hold the phone.
I got it then. Just wiggle this leaf spring until that bolt slides out. And there we go.
Crowel.
I got some crowel. It's whatever you want to do. I let them soak for about 30 minutes while I did other stuff. And so now we can bust these off pretty easy. Oh, let me turn this up. And it's just that simple. Take that one out. Take this one out. And leave that piece off. Put these back on. All right.
Now she's done right.
This is untouched. Let's see how good this does. And that's it. All right. So right here, this is going to mount on top of your axle.
Yeah.
And so you need to tighten these bolts up so that they'll go in that guide. There we go. Now that I got that plate done, goes right there. Now we're going to put the leaf spring on.
Oh, good. It's great.
So there we go. Now we're going to put this one on in its proper location, and then we'll lower the truck body down. All right, we got our other plate. It sets right down in those holes right there. And then this one, make sure those holes are facing towards the front of the truck, and they go right down there. Now all we got to do is pick up the leaf spring and put it back in the hole. All right, now that we got that in place, we got these pieces where they need to go. We're going to put these U-bolts and this bottom part of this traction bar setup on here, and tighten it all up. Take a U-bolt, drop it on that side. Take a U-bolt, drop it on this side. And make sure on this design that you get it where it's towards the cab. And then your little holes right here line up with those bolts that you flipped in your leaf spring. There we go.
There it goes. There it goes. There you go.
There we go.
Now
We're doing this
that
side.
shock's gonna go in here okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's close back here.
Here we go. Put this piece on. All right, now we got it on there. This is all snugged up into place, all seated in. There's how that goes. All we got to do is just put that little piece right back in, and this side will be done. All right, we got everything hooked up, buttoned up, all that kind of stuff, torqued up right there for the moment. Now, I lowered the truck down. I'm trying to get it to where these shackles actually go up as far as they're going to go. I checked the measurement on the tire gap to the fender well.
Yeah.
Everything's good. So I'm going to take my wrenches and tighten this up all the way as tight as I can get it, both of them. All right, we raised it back up. So there's that new bolt. We tightened everything up. It's 1 16" on both sides. All this is tightened up, ready to go. Tightened up our shackle and the end of the leaf spring. So now what we're going to do is put the shocks in place.
And we got to put the brake bolts back in.
Let's see here. So here we are. Let's install these bad boys. Okay, I decided to start with the passenger side on the rear here, and we're going to be using this this piece for the bottom of the shock, and then there's a relocation bracket right here. And what you got to go through is drilling a hole in order to put that bolt in. It's not easy. Use a marker. There's already a pre-drilled hole in this piece right here. You use a marker, draw you a circle, and then drill your hole. Now, just to let you know, unfortunately, where this is made up at is right there in that weld. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be fun, but yes, it is doable. And as you can see, it doesn't move, it's in place, it's good and secure. Now that we got that installed, I come down here, and if I would have read directions a little sooner, a little more, I would have noticed that there's a clearance issue right here. The bolt that goes in here is a new bolt, and you got to make these holes just a little bit bigger. Unfortunately, this is in your way. and that's in your way. So what I have to do, I'm gonna take this U-bolt out to get a drill in here and open that hole up.
What is going?
There we go. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we got the shock mounted in the top, and as you can see right here, it bottoms out on this bottom piece. And what it says you got to do is you got to grind a little bit off right here on both sides so that that shock can move freely, and then you'll be able to set it in place. All right, so we finally got this grinded up good enough, and we went ahead, so it didn't create a whole bunch of rust, we went ahead and shot a little paint on it, and we're just drying out the paint that way. That way it won't be ugly looking with rust in the end. All right, so while this was drying and cooling down, it's not even hot now.
Yeah, is
but
it tacky?
Not really.
That's good then.
It feels good. While we're waiting on that to cool down from the heat gun, we went ahead and went over here to this other side, mounted this bracket. You got to drill a little hole right here in order to put this bracket in place. Not too bad. Took about 10 minutes to do that. And we'll just tighten this up and it'll be ready. The kit comes with little bushings. There's some thin ones and thick ones. And the thicker ones fit the size bolt that comes in the package. You just gotta take them, put them inside there, mash them in. Here's that side. There's that side. Now we can install it. Slide this one up here, like so. And on the bottom, you gotta have 3 washers. Back up just a little bit, might stand right there. Gotta have 3 washers in order to fill the gap because of the slop there. Just difference in shocks from the factory Ford shocks to the Vikings. Put a bolt in, put 3 washers in on this side. There we go. Find the groove here. And she's good. Good and snug. And I can't see it. It's good and snug. We'll get the torque wrench on this stuff later. Alright, there's that.
There's the whole assembly.
Alright, so we're going to tighten up all this hardware right here. It goes to 60 foot-pounds. There's that one. We'll do that one on the other side.
Hang on a minute, let me.
There you go. Now keep going. Yeah. There we go. Now we'll do the ones on top. There we go. Get the one. Alright. Those are all taken care of.
All right, going to 35 foot-pounds.
This is the hole we had to drill for the extra bolt. That's 35 foot-pounds. Okay, we're going to tighten up the
U-bolt.
U-bolts, and it says they go to 25 foot-pounds.
All right, for the shackle, bolts, and the rear leaf spring is 173 foot-pounds.
All right. That's 173 foot-pounds on the rear shackle to the leaf spring. Takes a combination of different wrenches for the backup. Okay, 173.
Let's get this other side.
Now we're gonna go to the passenger side, same job. Get around here.
Now we get to. All right, the front leaf spring bolts are 258 foot-pounds.
They like them tight. That's passenger side. We're going to the driver's side.
Let's see. This one's going to be a little tricky, but
this is the one we had to cut off the original factory one because your gas tank is in the way. All right.
Now we got. All right, the last bolts I had to tighten was the factory shock bolts. They tightened to 55 foot-pounds.
It's turning on the back.
Yeah, it's got a back piece.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's that one, 55. And we got one more right here. All right. All right, last but not least, I had to tighten up that nut right there. Make sure this was all good and secure, and don't forget to do your replacement bump stops back in the factory location. Little deal right there is tightened up, and then new bump stop. And now on to the traction bars. All right, as far as doing the traction bars, I pulled these out of the package already. This is a personal preference of mine. I like to take the jam nut, run it all the way out almost to the very end, and then run your swivel piece here all the way in as far as it can go on both sides. Now remember, there's a left hand, right hand thread, so you got to make sure you put the right one in the right location. And do the same on the other side. If you start out with both of them all the way in, and then adjust from there, whenever you go to make your adjustments on these bars, they'll be equal on both sides, and there won't ever be a lopsided thing. All right, so right here, as you can see, we've already installed this side traction bar. You will notice how close this is. This is okay, because whenever you get it down on the ground, this is actually going to have a bigger gap to it. This one's already set, ready to go, like so. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you the step-by-step process to make sure you understand it on this side. Okay, in the instructions, if you haven't done it before, I actually already had some traction bars on here before I lowered the truck, the stock setup. You have to take these clamps off. I have a previous video that shows how I took them off and everything. You can go back and watch that video. For this, since that part's already done, you got 3 different holes right here. That little button you're going to put in the middle hole.
For this year model.
And mine's a 2019, so
2050.
15 to 20 I have that.
Yeah, right.
So do it like so. All right. Put this in that middle hole, like so. I'm just running these nuts up. I'm not torquing them at all with this. There we go. All right, so now we'll just tighten these up. 25 foot-pounds. All right, the reason why I did this first like this is because when you put this bolt in here, you're going to have clearance issues right here with putting the torque wrench on. That's why I went ahead and torqued that down first. All right, next thing you got to do on your little bump stopper deal comes with this little bushing. And wedge that bushing in up to the top hole, like so. Slide that in. All right.
Okay.
All right, so now we put that bolt on there. Before you torque it up, I want to make sure that you get this where it needs to go, exactly. And in the kit, you get two extra flat washers that'll go in between there. So make sure you put those flat washers in there, like so. And it doesn't say otherwise. I just like to make it where the nut's on the inside of the truck versus the outside towards the tire. That's how I did all of them. Just a personal preference. All right, now we can torque this up. We're just going to get it snug with this and then put the torque wrench behind it.
You said torque to 65 foot-pounds, yeah.
65.
Okay.
There's that, and here's this. Now, I want to show y'all something. This is a side note. This is a cheap torque wrench from Harbor Freight. It does the small stuff. You know, it's a 3/8 drive. And I want to show you, I got it set on 65 foot-pounds right here. If you're ever curious about whether or not they work, here's one made by Proto. Got it set to 65 already. No extra movement. That's pretty good for cheap. You can get expensive torque wrenches, you can get cheap torque wrenches, you're going to get pretty good. Alright, everything's already torqued up. You want to leave your gap right here like so. As you can see, this bottom helper spring is barely touching the bar, just ever so slightly touching the bar. Don't freak out about it, because as we lower the truck down, you'll see how it creates a gap. Let's go ahead. Oh, well, here you go. You can do that. I'm going to lower the truck down and show you that it still has a...
I'm going to come out from under it.
off of it.
Get down there and see if you can show that gap. I can.
All right. Let's see here. Now, as you can see,
The gap in here.
yeah, that's a bad angle with the lighting we got.
Yeah.
But I'll go around the other side where you can see it better. All right, as you can see, now with the truck on the ground, you got a nice gap right here. So the only thing left to do is whenever you get ready, you got to torque these up till they're up against right here, and tighten up your jam nuts, and that'll be the end of the rear. All right, now we're going to put the front coilovers together, and we already got this one done, so I'm going to show you the steps in order to assemble the next one. It's really pretty easy. It's not that bad at all. All right, step one here. You take these little
Snap rings.
Snap rings.
Yeah.
Take these little snap rings, put them in one side. All right, so anyways, we got the snap ring in there on one side. We'll go to the other side, and you got to slide this piece in. You'll find the right groove, and it'll go right in place by hand, just like so. And then you put the snap ring on that side. There we go. Now we just do the other side. All right, now that all the snap rings are in place, you put your little bushings in it. Then take this bottom thread ring, top thread ring, I'm going to extend this out. Put your little spacer, washer deal, whatever they would call that. Put that on there like so. Apply this. And then that goes into place. Now what I'm going to do here, spin this up. Like so. And that'll give us a good start for the install. Now that these are ready to go, now we can start taking the start. Step number one says to loosen up on these three nuts right here using 18 millimeter. I'm going to take two of them off, and the third one we'll leave it on there but loose. Two in the back there. We'll leave this front one. And so, yeah, it's still on there. It's got a little bit of room left. All right, so now need to loosen off on this nut. Do it like so.
That might clip. That's what I was worried about right there.
There we go. All right. So that's that. You've got to remove this AVS speed sensor line, and then the brake line pieces. You got to move these three, 10 millimeter and a 8 millimeter. There's that one. So now that's all
Okay,
clear.
got plenty of slack.
All right, after removing these right here, I got them loose where none of this is in a bind, even with the spindle leaning all the way out like that. They're not in a bind. Now the next step is you got to take this nut off of the top of the sway bar.
Beautiful.
Next thing, I'm unbolting these two 18 millimeter nuts from the bottom of the strut.
Does it say unseat it before you? It don't tell you whether to take that completely off, does it?
No, well, it says take the nut off, and you're going to use the pry bar in order to unseat the bottom of the strut, which I'm going to lower the jack down.
Yeah.
And I should be able to relieve some pressure. Alright. I gotta be careful right here so I don't damage that line. There's still plenty of slack. And I'll lower this down a little bit more. I think that's as far off of it as I can go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's come up. It's come up. You're right. This is still coming. It's still against the jack, so you're still against it. But I don't think it's going to come down anymore.
I think that's all it's
Yeah, it's moving the jack. You're as far as you can go.
all right.
Don't. Yeah, let that stuff just sit.
All right. We use that pry bar right there, and you had to pry right underneath. It's kind of hard to do that with a camera. I don't have a GoPro mount right now. But anyways, we had to pry underneath there just enough to pop this out. It didn't put any tension on the steering stuff. Didn't put any tension on the lines. That's all still good. Now the only thing left to do, we're going to take that one last 18 millimeter nut off, and this whole strut should fall out. There we go. Woo, she's a heavy bastard. Oh, wait. You got weight reduction just changing that swing. All right, there's that. Now, also, just so you can see, I did take the nut off of the sway bar, but I didn't actually have to take the sway bar off of the little bushing deal. It wasn't necessary. It just needed to give enough so that all this assembly would flex so you could get the strut out. All right, the next step is to mount the upper bracket piece. It goes inside there. Tighten this one up all the way. This thing will focus good enough. You tighten those three nuts up all the way, 35 foot-pounds. We already did that. Now we got to move on to this part. All right, so that one just easily drops in place, but you want to make sure that you leave it loose until you get the new front strut in, just like so. All right, we got this installed. Easy fit, goes right there, and you torque that up to 85 foot-pounds. Now on to the bottom.
Okay, we're recording.
Now this other side.
The other side. All right, let me hang on. Be patient.
That's it.
There you go. Now try it.
All right.
Go.
This bottom tightens to torques to 85 foot-pounds.
I'm holding the back up. Heavy.
All right. Now that we got that bottom torqued, and we need to reinstall this. Oop, hold on. I need to put that around the other side where it was. Push that up. Push it go down. Be just enough to get a thread on it. All right.
Okay, and you can do your sway bar bolt.
All right, there's that. Now that that's all good. All right. Once you've torqued this up, torqued all the shock assembly up, everything, we need to put these 3 bolts back in for your ABS line and your speed sensor line, whatever, and brake lines. Let's see. Why is it really difficult? Let's see. Where does that go? Hold on just a minute. Alright, so put this in here, like so, and then this side. Good and snug. That's that.
That's it.
Good deal. Last but not least, whenever you go to set everything, make sure you put a little bit of NICs on those threads. That's what I use. Put a little NICs on there before you start running your pieces up. You can see some right there still. Anyways, that's a definite must. And here's the end results. Turned out really good. The main thing I want to say is you need to make for sure whenever you do this, make sure you go to the alignment shop and check on your front end, make sure it's all proper. Mine was just a little out of adjustment, easy fix, and we're good to go. Looks good.